Hi, Black Hollywood Live fans. Today we're talking about rappers Desiigner and Nelly with two totally different legal issues. Today on Justice is Served.
You are tuned into Black Hollywood Live. Justice is served.
You guys are way excited to have this on, aren't you? This is the first time we've talked about Desiigner. Welcome, Justice fans, to Justice is Served. Thanks for joining us. My name is Chelsea Galicia. I'm an attorney, joined by my two fabulous co-hosts. You guys want to introduce yourselves? Ladies first.
Sure. I am Yemi Abayomi. You can reach me on Twitter and Instagram at Ayemyems.
I'm Shaka Smith. You can reach me on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat at Shaka Strong.
And we're here to bring you the latest in this week's legal news, starting with the story of the artist behind this summer smash, Panda. Rapper Desiigner has been on a bit of a legal roller coaster. Shaka, what happened?
Yeah, so Desiigner, apparently there was a road rage incident, you know? And Desiigner was charged, someone alleged that he'd waved a pistol at them, and Desiigner was charged with weapons charges, and they also found some drugs in the vehicle, so he also got possession with intent to sell.
So, as I understand it, he wasn't the only one. It was an SUV full of people,
yeah.
And the cops just went on the word of the either driver or passenger of another car that they got into some kind of conflict with.
Yes, and then the cops found no gun, and it turns out, or at least what's alleged by Designer's lawyers, is that the drugs were prescription drugs that belonged to the owner of the SUV.
There were some serious, drugs, steroids and some.
They were all steroids.
Oh no, OxyContin and yeah.
Oh, I thought they were all steroids. That initially I thought that they thought they were.
Well, they alleged it was OxyContin
drugs.
and methadone, yeah.
Okay.
So the drugs are all allegedly, or I don't know if this come out factually, that they are belonging to the driver, not to Desiigner.
Yeah, and they have prescription, and the driver has prescriptions for the drugs.
Okay, so the prosecutors have already dropped this. They're not even going through with any of this. It's so quick. I mean, normally these things take much longer from arrest to charges dismissed. It makes me think that something was up with this case, that the prosecutors are like, we're not even going to touch this. This does not even stand up.
He still has 2 charges pending, I believe.
He's a menace to...
for waving, yeah.
But for a gun... But no gun was found, so I don't understand how anything is still stuck.
I wouldn't be the way he came out recently. Came out of jail or came out of court. I mean, he was kind of very exuberant and happy. I assume he himself maybe knows that the charges are going to be dropped soon. As we said, no gun was found, and even in terms of possession, they were. He was a passenger in the SUV, and the driver has been previously arrested for distribution, I think, of drugs as well. Yeah. So
and his attorneys came out very strongly against, I guess, the cops releasing to the media that list of drugs as well, and against these charges that were really based on the word of somebody else. And I think it's so concerning that these police are not taking some more time and doing some due diligence to find out what's going on before they're making arrests.
I mean, that's really scary because the way that it looks like it went down is just a driver can make up anything about you. And I don't know if it was because of this road rage incident, or as I think Desiigner said, that the police were just after him because of his success. What do you think makes more sense?
I think that does make a little bit of sense, and I almost have to retract what I said last week, because I said last week, why wouldn't Chris Brown have just answered the door? Because once the police determined the credibility of both parties, it should have, alleviated,
the truth would come out.
Exactly, to some extent, that they would be able to go, well, this woman is not as reliable as we thought she was, but now I see that maybe he made the right move in waiting and getting his lawyer and, going through that whole motion, because the fact they would go just on the word of a driver and not do any vetting to prevent this from happening is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I heard that it's possible that they ditched the gun and that's why no gun was found. I don't know how to, prove or disprove that one. But if there really was no gun, I mean, if it did get tossed and there was no gun found, I just don't know. It makes the justice system look a little wonky, like unpredictable, unreliable.
And remember, Desiigner is someone of means. So what if this was someone that didn't have quite as much money as he did and couldn't defend themselves vigorously,
Yeah, I don't know. So it looks like this is probably an almost done deal for him. So as quickly as this started, it might end. But I guess welcome, Desiigner, for your first story covered on Justice is Served.
Hopefully the last.
Yeah, I've read that in New York, it's actually not unusual to arrest someone on possession, especially when there's multiple individuals in a vehicle, to arrest them all, charge them all with possession, and then, slowly but surely, as they get more information, the charges are dropped soon after. But it's not unusual to charge them at the outset if they're in a group in that vehicle.
All right. Well, I guess the good news is that it went quickly.
Yeah, but you'd have thought one of them would have offered, well, I have a prescription. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So something's weird about this story. Guess we'll find out sooner or later, hopefully. All right, on to a totally different legal problem. Rapper Nelly has some IRS problems, and he's definitely not alone. I guess Yemi's got a full list of the other celebrities who are currently facing tax problems.
Yeah.
Why don't you give us a quick rundown of who we're looking at here?
Yeah, so it seems like Nelly isn't the only one. As we know, Nelly just got hit with a $2 million tax lien from the IRS.
This is like coming in on some kind of record here. I mean, that's definitely not the largest, but it's one of the bigger ones that we've seen.
Right, not the largest, but it's a big one, and that's just his federal lien. He also has $150,000 in state taxes due, and so he's not the only one. We have Nene Leakes previously had a lien for $1 million. Iggy Azalea had one for $660,000. Monique, the comedian, had a $400,000 lien. So these were smaller amounts, but we all know, Wesley Snipes, he himself went to jail for 3 years for tax evasion, and that was $14 million.
Do you think Nelly would be facing jail time?
Well, it depends if this was some sort of willful evasion. I know Wesley initially had, come out and said he didn't agree with paying taxes, so that might have been part of it. But yes, I doubt he'll face jail time if this wasn't some sort of willful plan to evade tax payments. But what is interesting is Save Nelly and Hot in Hair are trending on Twitter.
I know his fans love him so much. I saw some great Twitter comments like, Nelly helped me grind with my first girl in middle school. I'm going to help him out now, something to that effect.
So if you're a Nelly fan, you should know that if we stream on Spotify Hot in Here, 426 billion, 965
Do I
million,
have to pick that song? I like Ride With Me a little bit better.
Well, yeah,
any song
will probably help. But yeah, when we get to 426 billion, his tax bill will be paid.
Okay, billion or million?
Billion. 426 billion times. If we stream it that many times, we can get his tax bill paid.
I don't think streaming is the way. Streaming is like it pays the least, right, in terms of the revenues to artists. So streaming might not be the way to go.
Well, it's trending on Twitter, so who knows?
They need to start buying tour tickets and something else. I don't know.
Seriously. So if he won't face jail time, that's not very likely. What is the likely remedy for the IRS? Because this is kind of a big bill. Yeah,
well, we do know that when you owe this amount, they can start to seize your property and your assets. So certainly we hope the streams come in quickly and the checks are cut fast.
And usually the IRS will work with you if you establish some sort of plan to pay and make an effort in that way. I mean, Wesley Snipes, for example, he was a little bit egregious, as Shaka said, because he didn't even feel he needed to pay, wasn't trying to set up a plan.
He changed his tune very late in that game, and by then the jig was already up.
Yeah.
So I also heard that people were like on replay playing the song while they slept for hours on a time. Yeah. So if you want to help them out, I guess that's a good way to go. But the bigger question that I have is, why do you think all these celebs, all these artists have tax problems? We hear about this every other week. Somebody's got a tax problem. What the hell is going on?
I think it's probably the result of poor planning, obviously, poor team management. When you get money and income from so many different sources, sometimes it can be tough to keep track personally, and you haven't hired someone who's competent to do it for you.
My suspicion is actually in the other direction, because we don't really hear people coming out and telling us how they got in their problems. The only time that I've seen a celebrity say anything was Rihanna, because she sued her accountant a couple of years ago because she said he mismanaged her money, and Brian McKnight, and he actually gave a live interview saying, I messed up. I hired people to help me, but I didn't keep tabs on my money. I didn't know what was going on, and I should have. And I mean, it seems to me that it comes down to education, that they just don't know the basics of taxes and managing where your money is going, and they depend too much
solely on that person. But you do think if someone comes with a recommendation and a degree that, you know.
But I would say that the number of times that I've heard of accountants, managers, even lawyers mismanaging people's money or even stealing it is like, I think it's an epidemic levels.
Well, money's got that enticement, I suppose.
So, yeah, I want to bring them all into my financially fit courses that I teach, right? But in the meantime, there's another way that people can get some education. Yemi, you want to tell us about General Assembly?
Sure. Are you looking for a career in tech? Maybe business, data, design, or marketing?
I'm sure some of those will help you to keep track of your money.
Or trying to get a promotion or raise. I think all of us can relate to that. To excel in your career, you need 21st century training and skills. General Assembly is the largest and most respected school worldwide for people seeking to grow their talents and master the marketplace. Whether it's learning remotely, online, or in person at one of their beautiful campuses, you can join the 350,000 people who have already gotten the training needed to propel their careers in tech and business.
It's like you can get it on your phone, even if it's online. It's pretty awesome.
But don't learn from them at the same time as you're watching our show.
Yeah.
You can watch the show and then do school later.
More than 2,500 companies worldwide hired General Assembly graduates, with 99% of graduates who participate in General Assembly's career services landing a new role in a field within 6 months of starting their job search. And
awesome.
Anyone who's been on a job search knows those are some great numbers.
Did our law school promise? Anybody else's law school promise that?
Take control of your talent and career now. Find out more at ga.co/geek. That's ga.co/geek. Enter the promo code GEEK, G-E-E-K, to save on your first class, workshop, or event. That's ga.co/geek. Code word GEEK.
Great. Thank you so much, Yemi and General Assembly, for your support of Black Hollywood Live and Justice is Served. Now we're shifting gears in a big way. There was an attorney in Mississippi who decided that he had had enough of the Confederate emblem in the state flag of Mississippi. Mississippi is the last state in the Union to have a flag that includes the Confederate emblem in it. And he sued in federal court to have the flag declared unconstitutional. He is offended by the flag, and I guess, I don't know, it seems like it was not that long ago, but then when I think about that, it was the same year that I graduated high school. In 2001, voters in Mississippi had a referendum, and they could choose whether they wanted to keep the flag or have something new, and they elected to keep it. So he tried a stab at it in court. How'd that go for him?
So it didn't go particularly well for him, unfortunately, although you could tell that the judge also had his reservations about the use of the Confederate flag in the Mississippi state flag. This was a black judge himself, Carlton Reeves, who said that Moore's claims failed because there was no cognizable injury, and that it failed in terms of making a constitutional claim. He would have to have shown that the Constitution guarantees a right to a freedom from anxiety and displays of racism, and he said that sounds more in emotional distress tort. And so, in terms of his injury, it has to be something that's specific and likely, and not something that's hypothetical. And so, unfortunately, it failed on that in terms of having standing and presenting an actual claim.
Yeah, this is a good case to understand a little bit about procedural law. About in order to bring a case, you have to have an injury that's particular to you that results from it, an injury physical or legal that gives you standing or the right to sue, basically. And the judge says that he doesn't come over this really basic hurdle.
Yeah, and so that was that. And then he also mentioned, is this a solution that should be remedied by the court system, or is this an issue that should be remedied, through the political process, through legislation, through the votes of the people? But
it was almost like a call to action, which I liked about his opinion, because you see the disdain for the Confederate flag.
He's like, it is great to be on your own and I stand alone sometimes. This is not one of those times. It was a very well thought thought out opinion, I thought.
Yeah, so he really just laid out the basis for the constitutionality of it, but really said, is this a sort of symbol we want to be showing to people? This is really kind of represents the most reprehensible part of our history. Is it something we want out there?
And he spoke to those, who had their own feelings outside of the courtroom, who said that, the Confederate flag is not a symbol of slavery. It's a sign of, American history. And he cited in his opinion that no, the one of the edicts, I guess, of the secession, of the Confederacy was their mission to keep slavery.
Yeah.
I mean, he stated it in the decision, and it's something that's undeniable.
I mean, I liked the argument that the attorney presented, which was that the flag is a form of hate speech. Quote says, tantamount to hateful government speech that both has a discriminatory intent and disparate impact. Those are words that are sort of needed to be proved for a 14th Amendment equal protection violation claim. And I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a tenuous connection, but I thought that sounded pretty legit to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think he made the best argument he could, and really kind of highlighted the divisiveness of that symbol, but at the same time did not pass that constitutional bar.
And somebody who is on the other side of this, who wants to defend the flag, said that, quote, a lot of people will point to its use by hate groups, but if you use that logic, we also have to get rid of the Christian cross and the Bible. I thought that was an interesting comment. But my argument to that was the Christian cross and the Bible are not used in any flags, are they?
Not to my
far as I know.
knowledge.
So,
We have that
great point, but
separation
I
of
think
church
I
and
got you,
state. Yeah.
right? Exactly because of that. So I think that this case has a chance, and so does Carlos Moore, because just today he filed a notice that he will appeal the decision, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and even Judge Reeves said that this didn't bar a situation from which a plaintiff might have standing. So maybe, obviously in appeal he can't really argue any new information, but there might be another plaintiff in the future that can offer something that might give him standing to sue successfully.
I mean, do we do you need like a specific person who was victimized by people with the flags, and
They would have to show some nexus of or maybe they have to show some nexus of that hate speech with their injury.
All right, we'll see about what happens with that. It will be very interesting. That flag cannot stand for very long. The question will be, how will it go down?
And obviously the voters have something to do with that. So
I just feel like it's gone through the process. As you mentioned, they've had votes, legislation, bills have been introduced that haven't really gone anywhere in the state Congress. So I don't know. I kind of question whether that symbol is going
I don't know if it's going to be in our lifetimes, but I do think it's.
Oh, really? No, I thought it has to be sooner than later. I guess we'll find out. All right. So there's been this is a really terrible follow-up on the Eric Garner case. There's some things that we've come to expect when we hear about these police, we'll call them killings, right? So we'll expect that when an officer is involved in the death of a citizen, that they're going to be stripped of their gun and have desk duty. And, we know that by now. And then we also know that it's going to take forever for the investigations to complete. Okay, we got that. But what I don't expect is the pay raise that this officer has gotten. So Officer Pantaleo was the NYPD officer who, call it a chokehold or not, put his arms around Eric Garner's neck, caused him to not be able to breathe, and then die.
Yeah.
And apparently it pays to be an officer who puts your arms around somebody's neck and, I will say it, kills them, because he's making a very healthy 6 figures.
Yeah.
Right. Apparently, it as you said, it pays to, I guess, go on desk duty. His income has changed incredibly since the time right before Eric Garner's death, where he was making he made total of $99,000 in 2014.
So that part I almost understand. He was a plainclothes officer out in the field, out on the streets.
Working overtime.
That part I have no problem with. And
Yeah.
Everybody else sort of on that same page? Okay, so all things sound fine there. But then
you notice the fiscal year starting immediately after the Eric Garner case, his total salary went up from $99,000 to $105,000. And what was interesting about this one is that he had about $17,000 in overtime pay, which was actually consistent with his previous year. But he also had an additional $11,000 in unspecified pay. Mm-hmm. So it's unclear what that was for. But what's even more interesting is that then in the 2015 to 2016 fiscal year, so now 2 years after the Eric Garner incident, his total pay is now $120,000, and his overtime pay has increased by 35% to $23,000, and the increase of his salary overall has been about 14%. In addition, he still got another $12,000 in that unspecified pay that we don't know exactly what that's meant to account for.
Yeah, so it's sort of just surprising because obviously he wasn't indicted, but the department said they disciplined him, and that you would expect to see some serious disciplinary action.
But they haven't said what kind of discipline.
They've refused to release it, and you'd expect that some sort of serious discipline would affect someone financially.
Yeah.
But apparently,
because that's the only thing that people care about. I mean, the justice system really can only penalize people financially or put them in jail. Yeah. They're not going to put him in jail, and they haven't penalized him financially. This doesn't make a whole lot of legal
So one wonders what the department did to
well, the department's saying that we've concluded our investigation. We're not releasing the results of that yet because we're waiting for the federal investigation to end. So again, yada yada.
But I believe they said there was some disciplinary action taken.
Yeah, but not anything of a serious nature.
Well, yeah, obviously, clearly. Yeah. I would love to know what that action was.
Well, and now Mayor De Blasio has spoken about even releasing police disciplinary records, saying that he's no longer going to do so. So even though the police department historically for 40 years has released disciplinary documentation, he's saying no more.
Yeah, I think what happened with that probably is because now they're citing some kind of law that's always been there, but they're just now following. Something shady is going on there. But this is terrible for police-community relations for this to come out. And I'm trying to understand it from the other side because this can really piss you off if you think about it. And I'm trying to be like, well, okay, how cooler minds prevail? How can we look at this from the other side and see maybe this actually makes sense?
Well, it makes sense in the fact that, okay, here's someone who was not charged with a crime, and why should he be affected financially if he is essentially, a free citizen? But my problem is there was a wrong that was done, and the department acknowledged that wrong in saying that we are disciplining this police officer. So now it speaks to what level of discipline took place.
None,
yeah.
right?
Well, that's why I think it's important to release those types of documents, know what the investigation uncovered. I mean, fortunately, in this situation, it was videotaped, so we all know what happened, and we know that chokeholds are against department policy.
So they said it was not a chokehold. I mean, what was it, a hug, a massage? I mean, there's just no way. I mean, whatever you call it, he did his job incorrectly.
Yes.
You're not supposed to cause somebody to die when they're doing something illegal or not illegal, slightly illegal, selling loose cigarettes, please.
Yeah.
And he did a bad job of enforcing the law and keeping this community safe, right? So if you do your job badly in any other job, well, maybe besides teaching, teachers are pretty protected too, you get fired.
Yeah.
And he wasn't fired. Pay went up over the course of 2 years.
And it went up substantially.
It
went up substantially. I mean, I think, all of us have worked in corporate jobs or public jobs, and maybe you usually see a little bit of a bump every year after doing some good work.
To keep up with inflation.
Exactly.
Or a raise if you do a really great job.
It makes me wonder if, part of the discipline was not working the same beat he worked, and they thought financially we'll compensate him because we want to protect our own and want to give him some sort of bonus for having not to have him do the job he typically does.
And it's difficult to even tell what that is because they give these amounts of unspecified pay. What is that meant to account for?
Yeah, what is it? $12,000 in the last year?
$12,000 last year.
So we don't know what it.
And $11,000 in the previous year, but that year before the Eric Garner incident, I didn't see anything reported about unspecified pay, only the overtime pay.
I mean, when something is this upsetting, I generally go to the question, am I missing something here? But
well, we are. We're missing the records, and we're missing we're missing a lot of stuff here.
Oh man. All right. Well, I mean, I always want to like end on a sort of positive note, but I don't really know what there is unless the federal investigation is going to reveal something that is going to lead all of a sudden to charges and real discipline. I'm not holding my breath.
Well, I think, well, hopefully, I know you've been covering that political show, so hopefully the presidential candidates are using this kind of information to do something progressive about what we do with our nation's police departments.
I mean, Trump is just always, touting our police officers are the best and most courageous and all that. And I'm sure most of them are, but he has said nothing about the officers who do their jobs badly. And
well, I know Hillary was promoting some national police standards and hopefully transparency and releasing these records. Though both candidates haven't been so good about that, but hopefully for police departments, it's something we'll see on the horizon.
And so now you have de Blasio and Governor Andrew Cuomo going kind of back and forth. De Blasio saying, well, it's not my fault I'm not releasing these documents. It's, something needs to be changed in the law. The legislature, the governor needs to do something about that.
Everyone points the finger at somebody else.
Right.
Okay. All right. And finally, we'll end with a very different story altogether. Blackish, the show?
Yeah.
Funny show.
It may have been stolen. I mean, we've seen these kinds of stories before. Yeah. We talk about it sometimes here when dealing with Empire. A number of people have come out of the woodworks with Empire and tried to say that, it's based on them or a character's based on them or it was based on their book or something like that. Yeah. And we have a similar story here with Blackish. It's Brian Barber is suing the showrunner, Kenya Barris. And these two people actually go way back.
Yeah, it's when I read this, or when I saw the headline for the story, I was like doubting it, of course.
Oh, yes, here we go again.
Yeah, it's a black experience, so it's going to be pretty broad and generalized, so anyone could almost claim it was stolen. But then we find out that Barber is like a noted director, of Idlewild, and he's done the games, music videos, and Outkast as well. And then they actually knew each other and had worked on a script prior to this.
They go back like 20 years to college where they met.
They went to college in Clark, Atlanta, and then they both became writers, and they were both signed to the same agency, William Morris, where they started working on a script together that was recalling the black experience in white America, essentially, and raising your family. And he claims that the original script was based on his own life.
Barber does.
Barber claims that the script was based on his own life. And VH1 was originally developing the script. They put it aside, and this is in 2006. Fast forward to 2014 when Blackish premieres, and he sees a lot of similarities in that original script present in that pilot
The wife's
episode.
name is the same. Rainbow is the name of the wife, and it's the same in both.
Yeah, but somebody's like, but in real life, his wife is named Rainbow, so that's not that.
Right. So it was really interesting because at first when I read this, I was like, oh, well, there are a lot of similarities. The wife's name is Rainbow. In the pilot episode, there is a reference to this grape drink instead of grape juice. The pilot episode, Andre, who's the lead character, is assigned to the urban department of his company, and apparently that happens in the original script. So there were certain very distinct similarities. And so I thought, oh, okay, well, maybe this was some copying. But then when you looked at Kenya Barris's life, it actually kind of reflects the same types of things. As you said, his own wife is named Rainbow. He also is a successful executive in the entertainment industry, a black executive in the entertainment industry, raising his family amongst a white culture. So is it necessarily Barber's life, or is this just Kenya Barris writing about his own life?
So you think the defense is that Kenya Barris is like, this is my life too?
The Rainbow. I mean, the Barber conveniently left out. I think that Barris's own wife is named Rainbow.
But I think, given the fact that it was in both scripts, that's not going to be helpful to Barris at all. So, and it seemed like there might be enough similarities, and the fact that they worked on a script of a very similar nature, I think Barber's going to prevail here.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. Now, some people are criticizing Barber for waiting so long. This is the second season. It's now up for Emmy nominations. Does that make a difference to you one way or another about the legitimacy of the claim?
No, just because you wait on the success of something to file a claim doesn't mean your claim is any less meritorious. So.
And something that I've learned is that it actually is better for somebody to wait until a show is successful, does get recognized and up for awards and things like that, because then your claim actually has some money that you can win.
Yeah.
If you stop it too soon, then you ruin the show. You stop the show from going on. You ruin the show, and then
Maybe you have no money to collect. Yeah.
you're left with your victory on paper, but you get nothing in the
And
end.
here, Barber is suing for his full rights. He wants all his credits, the writing credit. He wants also merchandising rights, just as if he were, a co-creator, co-writer of the show.
And $1 million. We'll see.
Under the copyright law, even if you are both joint authors of a work, either author can go ahead and license that information to another individual, but there has to be an accounting to that other author that wasn't involved.
And he's asking for that.
Yeah.
All right. I think that brings us to the end of our show today. Thanks for joining us, and be sure to like, comment, do all that fun jazz, and join us next time. You can find me at Chelsea Galicia.
You can find me at Shaka Strong on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat.
You can find me at Yemi on Instagram and Twitter.
You'll find all of us next here, same time, same place.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Dario Kristen, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live. Scipio, Instagram me at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
But redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.